Darkness kills, destroys the will. Find a spark, make hearts thrill. Hear the tales of time so grim. Shine a light, don't let it dim. Heather Brown downtown, bound. True crime story she's found. In the shadows, secret state. Need a light that finds the way.
Welcome back to another exciting episode of Defeating the Darkness, True Crime Stories with Downtown Heather Brown. That's me, your host, and I am a former homicide and sexual assault prosecutor here in Orange County. And right now, I have brought you back by popular demand.
You keep saying that. I don't know that that's true.
It's true. What are you talking about? People love your episodes. I'm bringing you Sally, a.k.a. Salberg.
Yes.
He just goes by Salberg. Why? Tell us again why you just go by Salberg.
It's
you got a weird first name.
It's it's a football thing, right? Playing football your whole life, and most football players call each other by their last names. And then the cop thing, when I was deputy sheriff, everyone knows you by your last name. Nobody knows. Well, people don't call each other by their first name. So,
what did your mom scream when you were in trouble when you were a kid?
Jeffrey.
Ooh, Jeffrey.
Yes, Jeffrey.
Did she throw the middle name in too?
She did.
Yeah.
You can ask me for it?
No.
Thank you. It's not good.
I don't want anybody to look you up or steal your identity.
Oh, God.
Steal your identity like they almost did after you lost my ID at that Chris Stapleton concert.
How dare you?
Do you remember that?
How dare you? Yes. It was because I was boogieing. I was dancing.
Yeah, okay. You got to hear this story. So listen to this. So my beloved friend and I, for his birthday, I got him tickets to see Chris. It was Chris Stapleton, right?
Yes.
Yeah, up in LA. And because you'd never seen him, and I was like, you got to see him. So we went to the concert together. A couple other people. I think your daughter or somebody else.
Yes.
Who went with us? I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't either. Someone, yeah.
A couple people were with us. And you were being, the consummate gentleman and looking after all the ladies like you always do. And I had this little purse. It was adorable little like snakeskin purse with a ring on it. And I was like, just dancing and singing. And I had set it right next to me on the chair.
Yes.
But we were chatting with the girls behind us and the girls in front of us having fun with everybody around us. And, and you were like, give me that purse. You're going to lose it. So you snatched my purse. Now you're holding it and you're dancing. You're swinging that thing around.
I was using it as a tool.
Yeah. I get out of there. We get out of that concert. Gone. Everything in it unzipped. My ID gone. Someone stole my identity, all because of you.
I'm so sorry. That's true.
Total party foul.
It was, but I enjoyed the concert. It was grooving.
And then I got stopped by the cops
for
possibly going over the speed limit, allegedly. And
I can't imagine that.
And I didn't have my driver's license because of you.
Good.
I'm like, I swear, my business partner lost it, and I totally timed you off. Chris Stapleton concert.
That's funny.
Anyway, I think I sent you in to get me out of that trouble.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah, I did.
So for our listeners who don't know the relationship, this is my law associate and my ride or die and
yes. Best buds.
Best buds. Partner in crime.
Absolutely.
Salberg. And what do you got going on?
Well, I had a great, relaxing weekend, Memorial Day weekend.
What'd you do?
Just mostly hung out. Did a little pool time. Just kind of chilled. Went and had some cocktails at a local watering hole. And that was about it. Hung out with Ricky Bobby. Ricky Bobby just had his 15th birthday. Ricky Bobby is my dog that you know.
Isn't Ricky Bobby like from a movie reference?
Yes. Talladega Nights, Will Ferrell.
Oh.
That was his character name, Ricky Bobby. So Ricky Bobby just had his 15th birthday, Memorial Day weekend. So he's getting old, like me. But he's hanging in. So that was about it.
What kind of dog is Ricky Bobby?
Yellow Lab.
Oh, beautiful.
Great dog. Yeah, he's a great boy.
Remind me to tell you a story about a dog.
A dog.
Okay, pinky that.
Pinky up. Pinky up the dog.
Yeah, we got to pinky up the dog. Okay, so you hung out, and this coming up, we have a fun trip planned together. Yes,
we do. I am looking forward to hanging out with you, the family. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a good time.
Yeah.
Friends, yes.
We're going to Cabo.
Super excited about that.
My friend Wheezy's coming. My best friend from
Wheezy?
Wheezy. I call her Wheezy. That's her nickname.
Like from Mrs. Jefferson?
Kind of. Which is funny, though, because I don't know where it came from. Her dad nicknamed her that. But I don't think it was from the Jeffersons because he didn't like her watching that. But there were a lot of shows she couldn't
Was
watch.
she an asthmatic child?
Oh, no, she was not asthmatic. He used to call her Wheezy or Weasel and any variation of that name. And so I
Adopted.
Yeah, I just picked it up and I've never dropped it. So
That's cool.
yeah, her name is Maureen.
Have I met her?
You have, but you don't remember. You met her at my retirement party.
Oh, there were a lot of people there.
I know.
It's hard to keep track of everyone of that. That was a big deal. There was a lot of people there love you and support you at that thing.
Yeah, we
Good
had
Lord.
so many cool people in the band,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, they were
Shout
great.
out to J.R. Miller and the Realize Band. I love that man and his whole entire band. They like sing Motown, and they're just incredible musicians. I have them over at the house sometimes.
I know. I was going to say they've been here. They've been, yeah. They're great. They're tremendous.
Yeah, shout out to JR. Okay, so back to Cabo. So we're going with my bestie. You know
Yes.
she's single, don't you?
I didn't.
She is. I'm just
Interesting.
Are you bringing a lady friend on this trip?
No, we might be. We might not be. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
To
we're still
be
thinking it
determined.
through. Yes, still thinking it through.
Are you
isn't
single?
she East Coast?
She is.
Oh, yeah.
I know. She's geographically undesirable. Otherwise, I would very much so try to set the two of you up. Just saying, Wheezy, in case you're
cool.
listening. Not in case. She listens religiously. Oh, and Pete, for the record, she wants to know why it's starting later each Friday morning because she's on East Coast time.
Oh,
I'm just throwing that out there.
tough crowd.
I know. It's a tough crowd. It's a tough crowd. Pete says it goes on at 3 a.m. for my East Coasters. Anyway, Wheezy, if you lived closer, I would set you up with Salberg. So you're single. You're single still?
I am.
Okay. I'm turning this into a dating show. That's why I'm doing
Yeah,
this.
it seems like it.
Right,
You're pimping
and-
me out still. It doesn't seem to be working very well.
I know. What's happening?
The comment section's not going well.
Well, they do love you. I just don't think that maybe there's just not a lot of single people listening, but maybe they have friends that they could mention. So what do you, I know I've asked you this before, but like,
Yeah, I just want someone cool. You know what I mean?
what does cool mean?
I don't like chicks that are a pain in the ass. I don't like chicks that have crazy expectations about the way things should be, right? Every girl wants, or most girls now want, the man to be a traditional man and take care of them and protect them and all the things I was brought up to do and do. But they don't want to have that type. They don't want to fall into that role themselves. Does that make sense?
Not really.
Well,
Explain yourself.
Every chick wants to be,
Do you think that they might not like you saying chick?
maybe.
Maybe we just solved the mystery. Just take that out of your repertoire and they'll be lining up for you.
No, I think that all women inherently want a traditional relationship with a man that provides and protects. But the whole equal rights movement of everything actually just drives me freaking crazy. That, the reason that, my parents were together for almost 50 years, met the summer between their freshman and sophomore year in high school, and were the only people that either one ever dated or slept with. My grandparents, until my dad died 17 years ago, my grandparents were together. My ex-wife's parents were together. They met in college. And the reason that I believe that those relationships were so successful is because everyone knew their role. Everyone stayed in their lane. And it doesn't matter what that means between two people. You talk about it, you discuss it. This is going to be my area of responsibility. This is going to be your area of responsibility. Don't come into my area of responsibility. I'll take care of it. I'll take care of you. You take care of the things that you do, and we'll live happily ever after. No one wants to do that anymore. It's all backwards. Now I have to worry about walking into a bathroom, and not to get all crazy political, that there could be a 12-year-old girl in there, right? I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't want my daughter to have to worry about that. It seems crazy to me that that's where we are. But a lot of women want that traditional relationship, but don't want to be traditional themselves.
Like the cooking and the cleaning?
Well, it's not even that. I have a cleaning lady that comes, right? I'm not expecting you to scrub toilets and do that stuff, but let's stay in our lanes. I'll protect and I'll provide and I'll take care of everything. You will want for nothing. But don't bug me. Don't bitch at me. Don't, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I'll take care of everything. It doesn't sound wholly unreasonable.
It's not unreasonable.
No.
I don't think that's unreasonable.
No.
Okay.
Absolutely.
You just want to be nagged at?
Are you asking if I want to be nagged at?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think most men do. It's a comfort feeling, you know.
They love it. That's my husband. He loves it.
Yes. I trip out on polyamory or, who the hell would want 3 wives bitching at you the whole time? That seems insane.
I know. That's what my husband says.
Why would I want that?
More than one woman to complain and tell me I'm doing it wrong. Totally. No, I don't really nag at my husband. I'm not a nagger.
No.
It's like, do your thing. Just don't be squawking about me.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
So that's why it works. How long have you been married?
22 years.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Some people get less time for murder. I'm just saying.
I was married almost 27.
Oh, ow.
She's an amazing woman. We just weren't amazing together. We're actually better now because she doesn't bitch at me. She's got a new dude that she gets to bitch at. And he's an amazing man. He's a really good dude.
But he's getting bitched at.
He's getting bitched at. Yeah, and I'm not, which is why things work. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that's my...
All right, that makes sense.
Yeah,
okay. So it's a mystery who you're going to bring to Cabo.
Yeah.
And...
if anyone, I might just roll down their solo.
Yeah, just roll down their solo and have
Check
some fun.
it out. Have some fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So we'll see. But yeah, I'm super excited about that.
I was just talking to Nick last night. His schedule's a little off, so we stayed up till like 2 a.m. because, he works in night shifts and stuff at Cane's.
Yeah.
So he was telling me all the funny lines that they have to give, which crack me up.
I'm sure.
Like, hey, want some chicken today?
Really? Do they?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Or yo, want some chicken to go? Anyway,
I love that.
He delivers the lines better than me.
I love it.
But yeah, so we stayed up late chatting. It was really nice. But
Good.
he was telling me he's super fired up about going to Cabo. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So,
me too. It's going to be a great time.
Okay, so we got some fun stuff. Let's turn to business. Let's turn to crime and tell us, what are you working on right now?
Okay. Let's see. I did get this one very interesting case. It's actually kind of crazy. So I have a guy who retained me. So do you know what? Okay, kettlebell, right? I want you to picture this 10-pound kettlebell. So there was some poo-butt 18-year-old little knucklehead, and he decided it was going to be a good idea to throw a kettlebell off an overpass into oncoming traffic on the freeway.
Okay, A, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard of doing. And B, do you realize, did he kill someone?
No.
Okay. Do you realize doing something that stupid would be a second degree murder? You could say, I didn't intend to kill anybody. I just wanted to see what would happen or smash someone's window. Even without the intent to kill, that's a second degree murder, right?
Absolutely.
Because you did something that was inherently dangerous to human life.
For sure. Wait till you hear this story.
Oh
this
God,
is
I can't.
crazy.
Okay, tell me. I'll shut up. Sorry.
So he takes a 10-pound kettlebell, which, not 10 pounds, 10 pounds. And he tethers it, he ties it with paracord. Do you know what paracord is?
It's like bungee?
Not really bungee. It stretches, but it's used by the military, used by law enforcement. It's used by campers and hikers.
So rappel down stuff?
You can rappel down, and there are different sizes of paracord, things like that. So this knucklehead takes his kettlebell, stands at the top of an overpass, and ties it up, ties a knot, and then basically measures what's about 15 feet that he believes is going to be the accurate distance down, so that when a car comes through,
he actually wanted to smash the window.
Yes, that was his intention. But wait, It's this crazy because this ain't gonna
Okay.
end the way you think it ends.
Okay.
So he measures off what he believes to be about 10, 15 feet, and he's right-handed, so he takes the remaining paracord and ties it to his arm, like wraps it around his arm like this. And then when he sees a truck coming, he launches it over. Down goes the kettlebell. Here comes a truck driver driving an 18-wheeler, and the kettlebell smashes through the passenger side window. So by the grace of God, it doesn't hit and kill him, which it obviously would have. As it crashes through
Does
the
the
window,
glass get all over?
oh yeah, it shatters the windshield. And so the truck driver immediately applies the brakes, but your perception reaction time and a little bit of freak out time and having a kettlebell smash through your window, he brakes, but he continues under the overpass, right? And for, several feet before he's able to stop this 18-wheel rig. And in doing so, obviously the 15 feet that the dummy measured wasn't long enough to support. He didn't factor in the vehicle coming to a stop, and it literally ripped his arm off right at here, right at the joint, took his arm off, sent it over and down onto the freeway. And they charged the truck driver, who's my client. That's who got charged with the felony.
Are you kidding me?
I'm not kidding you right now. Can you imagine that?
Are you effing kidding me?
No.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Yes. And they charged him with felony strong arm robbery.
Is that a joke? You ass. Salberg, I thought I had Kevin Smith on the show for a second. What the hell?
I'm way funnier than Kevin Smith. I'm way
Salberg,
funnier.
I was like, how come I haven't heard about this case? Why are we not going to open up a can of whoop ass? What the hell?
We're trying that one. All right. Well, I figured, I'd lighten this up a little bit. Tuesday after Memorial.
Oh my God. So that's why you wanted me to shut up so you could tell your joke. I was like, let's get the details
get
for
this
the
out, yeah.
for the listeners. All right, you can't trust this guy. He's out of control. He's totally out of control. You're out of line right now, Salberg. That was funny.
Good.
It's better than the one you told the mystery guest. Oh God.
The mystery guest.
Yes.
I don't remember that one.
I'm hoping Pete cut it out. I know. When you came to Cal State Fullerton with my students to do the game show we had, mystery guest. Don't you remember? You told one of your jokes there.
Oh, didn't go over well. I'm not for everyone.
You are not for everyone.
No.
No truer words have ever been spoken. Salberg is not for everyone. But you are for me because you make me laugh and I think you're hilarious.
Good.
And a great lawyer.
Thank you.
Okay,
Yes.
so I'm going to tell you a
Please, tell me
true
the
story and not a joke.
Is this
There's
the dog?
It's the dog. Yeah.
Well, I'm remembering. I didn't
Yeah,
know.
we pinkied the dog.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, that didn't sound good. But okay. So I had a case back in the day involving a dog. That's what, I don't know why, when you told me about your beloved dog, like Ricky Bobby. It's a very silly name. When you told me about Ricky Bobby, I immediately, I don't know why, I thought about this dog that I had with this, it was a German Shepherd though. It was not a lab. So there was this guy who, his name was James Abernathy. And this is so crazy. Okay. This is a crazy one. Are you ready for this crazy one?
Ready.
So he's one of the reasons I have one of my nicknames. I'll tell you in a second. I don't want to ruin the surprise.
Please.
But so I got this case when I was on felony panel, and it was animal cruelty case, which in and of itself is a felony, but it's not strangely enough considered a serious or violent felony. But it is a felony. But it's like a 16-2-3, which means the sentencing triad, the most you can get is 3 years in state prison. However, this particular individual had two prior serious and violent felonies on his record. So he qualified for the third strikes law, because those are both considered what's strikes. Mm-hmm. So when people talk about, I'm sure you know this, but for our listeners, in California, we have this thing called the third strikes law. And a lot of people are misled by, propaganda and fake news and media about how people are going to prison for stealing a candy bar. That's just simply not true. Right. Stealing a candy bar is a misdemeanor, and it doesn't trigger the 3 strikes law. So the 3 strikes law in California basically states if you have suffered a conviction for a serious or violent felony, so you have a conviction for a robbery, residential burglary, murder, rape, child molest, those are all considered serious and violent felonies. Strikes, they call them. And if you have 1 strike, if you have a criminal charge that, let's say, carries a 16, 2, or 3 is the sentencing triad that you could be sentenced to, any one of those state prison sentences, the strike doubles it. So
just for the listeners, right, when you say 16-2-3, you mean 16 months.
Yes, thank you.
Just to avoid any confusion, 2-3 years.
Yes. Yeah. So every felony, you know this, right? But for our listeners, every felony carries what's called a sentencing triad to it. If you look up that particular crime in the penal code, it'll say this is the sentencing triad. There's 3 numbers. There's low term, middle term, and high term. So for that crime, I believe animal cruelty was 16 months, 2 years, or 3 years in state prison. So the maximum you could get was 3 years in state prison,
right?
Which is the aggravated, right? So if you have a strike, one of those serious or violent felonies in your past, then that qualifies you to, it doubles your sentence. A strike basically, so now you're looking at, what's 16 and 16? 32 months, 4 years, or 6 years. If you have 2 of those, if you've suffered 2 prior strikes, then under the 3 strikes law, it qualifies you to get 25 to life. It makes your crime a life sentence. Now, within the law is the discretion for the judge to strike strikes. So let's say you have 4 strikes, right? It still gets you just 25 to life, but the judge can strike some of those strikes. So he could, in theory, strike 3 of the strikes. There's a case called People versus Romero that allows the judge to do that. The judge could strike some of those strikes, all those strikes, or none of those strikes, and say, hey, I think this crime qualifies for 25 to life, for a life sentence.
Right.
And you argue the nature of the priors. Were they separate occasions? Do you have what's your entire criminal history like? How serious is this crime? If you get caught for a felony like possession of drugs, although now, drugs aren't even a crime anymore, which is a crime in and of itself. True. Don't get me started on that one. But if you have, multiple strikes or whatever, the judge looks at the entirety of the case, and you basically will argue about that. So I got this case. It's animal cruelty. The guy had prior strikes, and his strikes, OMG, were like really bad. Okay. So of course I, look up the priors and pull the police reports. And this one prior, this guy, I swear, was like, his criminal history was incredible. One of his priors, he had was hanging out with some of his buddies, and one of the buddies had, this is a terrible story. Okay. One of his buddies, while they were partying and drinking and doing drugs, one of his buddies they were playing with guns. One of his buddies shot a bullet hole in the roof of this guy's trailer. And he was pissed and was like, dude, you ruined my trailer. You need to come tomorrow and fix it. So he's like, all right, dude, so they party that day, and the guy comes back to fix his trailer because he knows this guy's nuts and violent. So he comes back the next day and he repairs the hole in the trailer. And then he goes, yeah, not so fast. He's like, I want you to do my laundry. And so now by that point, all the other buddies had come over and they're partying and hanging out in this trailer. He was like, I want you to do my laundry. So he then takes, drops him off, takes the guy's car, the victim's car. He turns into the victim. Okay. Takes the victim's car, brings him to the laundromat, makes him do his laundry, says, you're going to be my little bitch for the day, and I'm taking your car. Oh. So he then takes the guy's car with his other buddies and doesn't come back. So he leaves him there doing the guy's laundry. So the guy does all his laundry. Then I think he finds a ride and goes back to
trailer.
Waits for him. And then when he goes, all right, dude, like I did your laundry. I was your little bitch for the day. I fixed the hole in the ceiling. Give me my car keys back. He's like, yeah, not so fast. And then he proceeds to basically tell him, the victim, that he needs to, that his girlfriend is going to, in front of all these people, give him a blowjob. Right? And so the guy's like, what? Like, he'll kill me for, and so the girlfriend says, like, you better go along with it. He's crazy. He'll kill us both. So he's like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. Because he knew that this guy was then going to be like, hey, you were messing around with my girl, and like give him a reason to do something awful to him. Well, he does that. The girl gives him a blowjob. Then he makes the guy get on all fours, and he like, if there's any kids listening, turn off the radio right now. Okay? Not that any kid would be listening to this horrible show. I mean, it's a great show, but the stories that we tell.
With mom and dad in the car.
With mom and dad in the car. Exactly. That's what I meant. So he basically makes this guy get on all fours, and he sodomizes him while he puts a gun in the guy's mouth. Okay? I know this is horrible. Okay? I'm just giving you the backstory for why this case was so important to me. Okay? Because this guy's really dangerous. The guy ended up running out of there naked, flagging down a police officer. And when it came time to go to trial, he was terrified and didn't want to testify against him because he thought he'll come and kill me. And so they did dispo the case, but he still got a strike, but he didn't get a lot of time in prison. The next case, the next prior was somebody pissed him off. And so he like chased him down the road with a samurai sword. And like people were calling the police, like there's a dude with a sword in the street.
Chasing another dude down the street.
So he got an assault with a deadly weapon for that, which was a strike. So he had 2 strikes for that. But more importantly, in the file was a letter from this guy's sister, who basically, and I'm not joking, she wrote a letter and said, you all are fucking idiots. Like, this is to the DA. She writes the letter to the DA. Or actually, I think it was to the judge. No, it was to the DA. You all are fucking idiots if you don't see how seriously dangerous my brother is. He has been like skinning animals, and since he was little, he would leave like animals in the toilet for my mom to find and my stepmom. Okay, and then she proceeds to say that his mother died of a very suspicious death in her mind, because this guy was the only one home when the mom died. And he claimed, that mom shot herself, but she thought it was bullshit.
Right.
Then she talks about how one time she got released from prison, and her father made her go and visit her brother. And she's writing this. I'm reading this letter from this lady. And she said, I went to visit him in his trailer. And after he like disarmed all the booby traps that he had set to let me in the trailer, I excused myself to go to the restroom. And there was like a head of a boa constrictor in the toilet. And she was like, oh my God. And then she said that she sat down and she did not want to be there, but her father told her to go visit and, visit him now that he's out of prison. And she said he proceeded to make her play Russian roulette. And she said, but it wasn't where you like put all the, you just put one bullet and the rest are empty. He said he put all the bullets without one. And she just said that she was like, she got so freaked out, she left and, just ran out of there and told her father, I'm never going to see him again. So fast forward to my crime. My crime is animal cruelty for he beat his dog to death with a golf club, shoved a stake through his heart, and then chopped the dog's head off. Okay? So, in this case, like clearly, right, I'm like, I think this one goes for 25 to life, Your Honor, right? So I'm having to argue this case is worth 25 to life. Please don't strike strikes. But he wanted to go to trial because he was pleading not guilty by reason of insanity. Well, I mean, he does sound crazy, right?
I would definitely say so, yes.
super crazy. And I'm like, well, how do I, but so the difference is if you enter a plea of not guilty by reason of insanity, or if the jury finds you not guilty by reason of insanity, because you have a right to a trial on that, and so does the DA. The difference is you go to state prison or you go to a mental hospital.
Right.
But if you're in the mental hospital, you don't stay there for 25 years automatically. The mental hospital gets to decide when you're stabilized and release you to the community. So you could get 25 to life and be out in 4 years.
Right.
Which was frightening to me if this guy were ever to get out. Like, he was so dangerous, like a total true psychopath.
Yeah.
So I had to do like a really deep dive into his, history and everything. But like, how do you, as a prosecutor, I'm like, how do I prove he's not crazy? Because he sure does sound crazy to me. But the legal definition of insanity is different than when we're like, oh, that guy's crazy, right? Like, you're kind of crazy, Salberg. I'm just saying. But, but not insane, legally, criminally insane. So you have to prove that you are basically, you don't understand the difference between right and wrong. Like, you suffer from a mental illness. Okay. You have to suffer from a mental illness that causes you to not understand the difference between right and wrong, or be able to contemplate the consequences of your actions. And so, to really understand the nature, like, you're like, oh my God, there were, aliens coming at me, and that's why I was swinging that axe and I chopped my neighbor's head off or something. Okay. Right. Different than you intentionally doing something. And so this case was really just kind of difficult for me to prove, because then it becomes a battle of the experts. Basically, they bring in experts, they being the defense, brings in experts to show that, like, hey, this guy's crazy, right? And you could easily find 5 experts to say
he's cuckoo for Cocoa
He's
Puffs.
cuckoo, yeah, right?
Right.
I mean, wouldn't you, if you were jury, be like,
Yes. Probably crazy. Yeah.
Probably kind of crazy. But one of the things was, I started looking at, okay, so I want to back up to the nature of the crime, right? So I started looking at the nature of the crime, and it's horrible. Like, who would kill their dog? They're especially a beautiful, beautiful German Shepherd. But he had done it at, I believe it was his grandma's house where he was living, right? Most people and the thing is, he was a meth addict, right? So I saw all the, history of drug addiction and
evolution of
the evolution, and that's what happens when you smoke chemical compounds that are not designed for human consumption. Right. It screws your brain up.
Yeah, alters. Yes,
it alters your brain chemistry and puts all these toxins in your brain and kills your brain, so it doesn't function anymore. And then you become paranoid. Then you do all these horrible things. And so, but the thing was, he did have a drug problem, and he was, he had moments of lucidity when he was not consuming drugs. So he didn't suffer really from a mental illness. He suffered from a drug addiction.
Right.
So I had to I had to prove that up, like that his behavior was caused by when he used methamphetamine and not the result of some mental illness that he had, right? Because you can't just use drugs and do horrible things and then be like, oh, I'm insane. It's like, no, you're not. You're a drug addict and a meth head, and the meth caused you to do these evil things.
Right.
So, or if it's alcohol, those kind of things. So I had to really look in. So he had left a note. So he brutally murders this beautiful German Shepherd named Marie. And he had left a note that said, Dear Dad, now I'm going to have to get a new dog. Oh, sorry, back up. It said, Dear Dad, if I rammed my car into a house full of nuns, would you call the police on me? Ha, ha, ha. Now I have to get a new dog, and little Georgie will never grow up. And I was like, what? So I called this guy's dad to ask him, what
does this mean?
Yeah, what's up with the note? And he said, yeah, my son, when he's using drugs, he does horrible things, and I've been protecting him my whole life. right? And forced my daughter to go visit and blah, 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 blah. But I'm done. I'm not going to protect him anymore because Georgie's my stepson. Not his stepson, his biological son with the stepmom.
Got it.
Okay. It's his half brother.
Yep.
And that freaked him out that he said Georgie's never going to grow up. He was like, now this is over the top. I'm like, oh, that's over the top. Those other things, the samurai sword and the sodomizing the guy with the gun in his mouth.
The nuns?
It was a joke. He thought that was funny. He was making a joke about ramming his, these are Catholic nuns, mind you, would you still bail me out of jail? Something like that. I don't know. I didn't really get it. He just said, yeah, he's just, so I asked him, would you be willing to testify about the fact that he uses drugs, and when he uses drugs, he does these bad things? Because he said he used to work for me. I think he had a construction company. He used to come and work for me and do work for me and everything. And so he did. He said he would come testify for me. So anyway, before the trial, it was in front of Judge McKeno. Literally, it was as if the North Pole had been moved to Central Justice Center. The amount of mail that was being delivered to the judge asking him for 25 to life. I've prosecuted serial killers, right? Like worked on
bad people.
Bad people. No one ever sends this kind of mail. The judge might get 3 to 5 letters or something, or some people will show up, because it's a sensational case. But I'm talking huge, like Santa Claus bags of mail. People outside the courthouse, they wanted 25 to life on this guy, and rightfully so.
Can't mess with dogs.
But the whole issue, when you say you're not guilty by reason of insanity, you're admitting that you did the crime, right? Well, first there's 2 phases. You got to find the guilt phase, and then but you're saying I did it, but I was insane at the time I did it. So the whole issue was whether he was insane. I called this incredible expert witness, who actually was probably one of the best expert witnesses I've ever had in terms of sanity. He did such a great job. He interviewed so many different friends and people and got information. So the other thing, I forgot to tell you about this. So I found out from the dad that he named the dog Marie after his girlfriend, and that his girlfriend had just broken up with him. And so to me, that you're not crazy, you're just evil and mean, because you were killing the dog because the girl broke up with you. Yep. And to me, that's a very lucid thought that shows you're not insane. It just shows you when you were high in meth and mad that your girlfriend broke up with you. So I told my investigator at the time, we got to find Marie, because the dad's like, I just know her name's Marie and she's a bartender in La Habra, right? So I told my investigator, I want to find. No, it wasn't JB. I'm not going to say who it was, because I'm going to talk a little smack on him right now. But this is not JB, and it was not Chris Peterson, and it was not Paul Kelly. And I'm naming all the good ones. Yeah. Okay, but no, and this investigator, he was good, but he just thought I was insane. That's all. He was a great investigator. He just thought I was nuts. Because I told him, let's go find Marie. And he goes, you think we're going to find a bartender named Marie in La Habra?
For sure.
I'm like, yeah. I'm like, how many bars could there be in La Habra?
I could do that.
Right? Yeah. Salberg, you probably know. You're like, here's Marie. This one. I'm not suggesting he hangs out at the bars or anything. But
oh, that's funny.
Anyway, you may have gone into a drinking establishment on occasion.
Once or twice.
Okay, we actually met in bar, you and I. Okay.
We did.
So I say, give me a list of all the bars in La Habra, right? And so I'm like, let's go. He's like, you're crazy. We're never going to find her. I go, well, let's just go. We'll have fun. We're going to the bar in the middle of the day for work purposes.
What are you doing?
Right? How terrible could that be? So I'm like, let's just go. Right. So we're driving and we get to this bar and we go in, and it's it's shady ass bar, right? It's this shady ass bar. And I had just printed out a list of bars in La Habra. Yeah. So we go to the first one, and I know that this, the guy, if he hangs out at the bar, he probably met her in the bar, right? And because he's nuts, I'm going to guess it's like a shady bar.
For sure.
right? He's not going to, Seasons 52 or something for
Correct.
a glass of cab. Okay.
It's not. No.
So we go to the first shady bar I can find. And we go up, and these girls are, it's the one of kind of those bars, bikini bars, where the girls are in like scantily clad outfits. And if, mind you, my investigator's like all buttoned up in a suit, right? So we get out and we walk in. The girl comes up. She's like, "Can I get you a drink?" Because businessmen go in those places too. I'm gonna guess, right? Not that I've been to them, but so he's like, "I'm a cop," and I looked at him like, "Are you fucking kidding me right now?"
The worst investigator.
Like, who says that? Nobody's going to tell us anything now, you
Dumbass.
big dummy.
Totally.
What the hell? I'm like, you're sitting in the car.
Yeah.
Like, this is
Seriously.
not happening with me. JB would have never done that. And so that girl walked away quickly, rightfully so, right? So I just went up to the bartender. I said, "Hey, you ever seen this guy around? Like, and do you happen to have a bartender named Marie?" And he's like, no, I never seen him. I go, so I said to him, I go, "Well, do you know of any bars around here that are like, kind of sketch, that some like sketchy people might hang out at?" And he goes, "Well, there's one down the road called," I don't even remember the name of the bar, right? And he goes, "You might want to try that." So I was like, "Oh, it's down, 4 blocks on the right. Okay, thank you so much," right? And we leave. I go, "Come on, we're going to this other bar." The bar's not on the list. He's like, "We're not going to a bar. It's not even on the list." I go, "Well, he said that sketchy people." "No, I'm not going in." I'm like, "Good, stay in the car. If you don't want to come in, like, stay in the car." So I get out and I go. He's going to be so mad if he listens to this podcast, but he knows it's true. So I go in.
Marie?
I said, "Hey, is Marie working?" And she goes, "No, she's out on maternity leave." Right?
Oh, shit.
So now our case had happened a couple years ago. By the time I went to trial, it wasn't his baby. Anyway, if that's what you were thinking.
Yes, that's what I was thinking.
So I go, "Oh, no way." I go, "You wouldn't happen to have her number, would you?" And she looks at me like, "Who the hell are you?" I go, "She's not in any trouble." I said, "My name's Heather." I go, she used to date a guy who did something really terrible, like killed a dog. And so they're not, I know that she broke up with them, and I just kind of wanted to ask her a couple questions. She goes, "Hold on." And then she literally goes,
Calls.
"I'll call her. I'm not going to give you her number, but I'll call her." So she calls her, hands me the phone. Within 4 minutes, I was on the phone with Marie. And then my investigator comes in, "Are we going?" And I was like, "Shut the fuck up." Like, shut up, right? Like, I'm on the phone with Marie.
Yeah.
Never going to find her, right? So anyway, so I talked to her, and I got the information. She said, "Yeah, he had named that dog after me. He's crazy. That's why I broke up with him." And
Verified all the things.
yeah, I verified it. So anyway, so I got Marie too. So bottom line, we go to court, battle of the experts. He's found sane, which is what I wanted, because I wanted him to go to state prison and not the mental hospital, because I knew they would keep him for at least the 25 years, right? And the judge, and then after found sane, then I had to convince the judge why he should give him 25 to life, and he did, which was great. Thank you, Judge McKeno. He gave him 25 to life, and then I think about 2 weeks later, he killed himself. He hung himself in prison, in state prison, which I have to say, of all the defendants that have killed themselves after I prosecuted them, I got like something on my jacket. It's distracting me.
Should we Sharpie it?
We should Sharpie it. That's an inside joke.
I'll do this for the camera so anyone can see anything on me that needs to be Sharpied.
Okay. So he's called me a sociopath before we even started filming today, because I told him I wanted to Sharpie some white marks on his, it's like the inside of the button was showing. And he goes, "You're a freaking sociopath." Anyway.
Oh my gosh, you're hilarious.
So what was I saying about the guy who killed himself? Oh, yeah. So he hung himself in prison. Yeah, basically the judge gave him 25 to life, and then he hung himself in custody. And I was saying that this is one of the cases where, like, of all the defendants that I've prosecuted who've killed themselves, and there's been a few or tried to kill themselves.
More than a few, yes.
So they jokingly call me the Brown Widow, right? Because my last name's Brown. Okay. But that one actually I did feel bad about, because not that he got 25 to life, because he deserved every last second of that, and he was going to kill someone if he hasn't already, the mom. But was because the father had testified against his own son, and then he
helped create that sanity.
Yeah, I have to hope and pray that there's something, in the dad that knew, like, his son was a recipe for disaster, if not for his own family, but for everyone else.
Right.
And that he was,
I think he did. Otherwise, he wouldn't have helped you.
he wouldn't have helped me. I know. Like, that's hard for a parent to make that decision, right?
Can you imagine? Yeah.
To testify knowing that your testimony is going to, like, potentially put your kid in prison for the rest of their life. But I think as parents, at some point, you got to just step up to the plate and protect mankind and your own family,
Yeah.
I just worked on a case of an officer-involved shooting that happened down in Dana Point, where this, guy with a knife had gone to his parents' home and was trying to destroy their vehicle. And the dad chased him away. But then, people are like, there's a guy with a knife running down the street. And the police officer was doing some great police work. He was looking for him in the bushes. And the guy jumped out with two huge butcher
two
knives.
right?
Two.
Yeah.
Two huge butcher knives. And so the cop, had to shoot him, which is, he didn't want to, but
No.
that's what we call suicide by cop, when someone does something that they know is going to get them killed, and they do it anyway because they, I think, potentially want to.
Became very popular for a while.
This
Suicide by cop.
Yeah. Did you ever have any cases like that?
No. Well, as a lawyer, yes. When I was, because my first job out of law school was defending law enforcement officers in force cases. And yeah, there were a ton where people know, and then, they suspect that either they or a family member is going to, if they don't die, they're going to come up big in a lawsuit, right? So either way, either they die and or they don't die and they plan to sue the city and the law enforcement agency and the individual cop. Yeah, it's a nightmare. I mean, so popular it developed a label, right?
Yeah.
There became a name for it all of a sudden. Yeah, terrible. People are crazy.
They sure are. Well, not crazy. Not legally insane, though.
No.
Right?
Right.
Because that's the thing. I know it's hard when you're like, God, he's so crazy. This guy's crazy. Yeah. Everybody, by objective standards would say he's crazy, but there is a difference in terms of the legal definition of legally insane.
Right.
So, yeah, that was like that crazy lady that faked her pregnancy. I've already told that story, but on that one, she faked her pregnancy for 9 months. And then when she needed a baby, she befriended a lady at a pregnancy clinic in Santa Ana and came over to her house and stabbed her and tried to steal her baby. Right? And anybody listening to that is like, you gotta be you gotta be nuts.
Yeah.
Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, right?
Yes, for sure.
All right. So we got the dog story. Remembered that one. Do you want to hear another dark story?
I do.
A dark true crime tale.
Love it.
I don't know. Have I ever told you I like to tell you stories you haven't heard, because you're like, you told me that one, Brown.
No. No, if anyone tells stories over and over again, it's me. I tell the same shit over and over.
No, you tell the same jokes over and over.
That's true.
But I had never heard that one, because I would not have fallen for that. So I'm still mad about that one. Okay. So let me tell you another story. Okay. So Jose Lopez. So Jose Lopez. Okay. This case it's actually a horrible case, but they're all kind of horrible, right? Because it's about crime.
That's what you do. Yeah. That's what you did. And they were the horriblest of the horrible. I don't think that's a word.
It is now. We're going to put it.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so this was a case out of Costa Mesa, and I got to give a shout out to Costa Mesa PD. They were actually my agency too when I was in homicide, and I loved them. I just think they are some of the hardest working people here in Orange County.
Right.
And they're just so professional, and
good cops.
They're really good cops, and they're super detail oriented, and they cover all their bases. They dot their I's and cross their T's. And I love that in any police agency. But this particular case, they did such a bang up job. It was an apartment complex in Costa Mesa, and this one gal was laying on her couch at night, and she had just gone to the soda machine in their apartment complex to get a soda pop. And she went back and she laid down, and she was like a larger gal, right? Very tall, probably almost 6 feet tall. And she was laying on her stomach face down, and she felt what she thought was a cat jump on her back. Have I told you this story?
No.
Okay. And so she like looks up. I thought, well, how big is your cat when you hear what happened, right? So she looks up and she sees a guy in a ski mask, right? He's got a ski mask on, and she thinks, oh my God, like I'm screwed. Like this is not my cat. Okay, of course me, I'm like, how big is your cat? Like you had a grown man on your back and you thought it was your cat? But anyway, he was a little guy, okay? In more ways than one when I get to this part of the story. Yeah, speaking of the pinky. I know, it's one of those stories. Okay, so she like turns around and thinks, oh my God, like that's what she even testified. Like she thought, I'm fucked. Like this is not good. No. And this guy proceeded to sodomize her, and he stuck his hand like under her, because she was on her stomach. So he sticks his hand on her stomach and, touches her vagina. And then after he sodomizes her, he gets up and he makes her go into the bathroom, and he keeps saying quaret, like putting his hand over his mouth. So she goes into the bathroom, but and he makes her count to 100, tells her, count to 100. And, and I guess then you can call the police. I don't know. So
what then?
Count to 100. And so, or something like that. So she leaves, and he leaves. And she is thinking the whole time, like, some short motherfucker raped me. Right. Like and she testified to that. Some short motherfucker raped me. And she was pissed because she thought I could have taken that guy. When she stood up and went to the bathroom, she realized how little this guy was. So she was really upset. She calls her neighbor, who happened to be blind. Okay, so my first witness was a blind lady, but she remembered every single word that this victim had said. Anyway, so she then reports, they call the police. Her neighbor comes over, they call the police, and Costa Mesa comes out, takes a report, and they end up finding, like when she has a sexual assault exam, they end up finding like semen in her fanny, okay? So they have a profile, male DNA profile, but they obviously don't know whose it is, right? They put it in the system, which is called CODIS, and they uploaded it, and there's no hits, right? So they get no hits in CODIS. And then from there, nothing happens. And then fast forward, it's like Mother's Day. And probably about maybe 4 or 5 months later, on Mother's Day, there's a woman, she's in her 80s, who lives maybe she's in her late 70s. I think she might have been 80. Anyway, she was older. She goes out for dinner with her son, who also lives in another apartment in the same apartment complex. And
as his mother or as the victim?
Both.
Okay.
They all live in the same. So victim one, I'll just call her Karen. Karen lives, the one who said some short motherfucker raped me. I forgot to say this about her. Sorry, I'm digressing. But she reported to the police that the guy, she thought he spoke Spanish because he was saying quaret instead of quiet. And she said he smelled like dirt and he had a really small penis. Okay. So they're on the hunt they're looking for a needle in a haystack. And so I'm such an idiot. Okay.
Literally and figuratively.
Yes. So they then, this older gal, she lives in in the same apartment complex, but a different unit, obviously, than Karen, and a different unit than her son, who also lives there. So they're in this apartment complex, and they go to dinner. The grandma, okay, she babysits for her son's son, her grandson, who lives in that apartment complex. Okay. So the older lady, so she babysits, and then one night, and then after the son comes to pick up the grandson, they leave the apartment and grandma's sleeping. So grandma's sleeping and she has like a Murphy bed in her apartment. And she wakes up to like tugging on her sweatshirt because the son had come, picked up the grandson and left. So she thought it was like they forgot something and they were coming back like, hey, grandma, hey, grandma. She feels this tugging on her shirt and she looks and the guy has a hoodie on and it's like pulled really tight. So you can just see like right in the center of his, like his nose and a little bit of his eyes. And he's got a black hoodie on and she thinks, oh my God, right? I can't believe this. And he proceeds to rape her, this 80-year-old woman, and then the Murphy bed closes up with her and the rapist in the bed. She gets squashed into the wall. And I know, is that crazy? She gets squashed in the wall with the rapist, but the bed hit her, right? Like when she was there, she gets hit by the bed too. So she breaks her nose. She's got a broken nose. She's being raped and she's squished in the Murphy bed with the rapist. Okay. And I know we're giggling.
Laughing. Yes.
Listen, but when she was on the stand, she actually was kind of giggling about it. I thought, oh my God, I'm 80 years old and this is my life. Are you kidding me? Right? It was terrible. It was terrible. So this happens. She then is like, I can't even believe this is happening. She's able to get the Murphy bed down, like push it down so it's back down. And she crawls on her hands and knees. They have a sliding glass door and she's crawling on her hands and knees. And she thinks maybe if he, even if he doesn't speak English, he'll recognize the Lord's Prayer. So she's on her hands and knees and she's calling out the Lord's Prayer. And this is why I want to light this guy on fire. And there's a lot of people I want to light on fire. As she's doing that, he grabs her, pulls her back, and he sodomizes her. Okay. So grandma is like, cannot believe that her night turned to this. She was like babysitting her grandson. She ends up going into the bathroom and taking a bath to wash away any DNA evidence that we might have found. But I totally understand why she would have done that, but she does not call the police. She takes a bath. She just doesn't, she's in shock, I'm sure, and is very physically torn up. Okay. The next day is Mother's Day. Or the night before was Mother's Day, and the son was a bartender. I think he was working, which is why she was babysitting.
Right.
So now he's able to take her out for Mother's Day. So it did happen on Mother's Day. Ugh. So now the son goes to take mom out for Mother's Day the next day, and he gets some alcohol in her. Like she has a couple margaritas to celebrate Mother's Day, and she tells her.
Fly.
She lets it fly and she tells her son what happened. She's like, son, I got to tell you about something. And he's like, Mom, why didn't you call the police? Oh my God, we have to go home right now and call the police. So they do that. They go home, they call the police. Costa Mesa police comes out. They take a report. They do a physical exam. There's no, no DNA found on the mom, but there was in the Murphy bed. But bam. Okay. So they find semen stains on the sheet in the Murphy bed. And so they send it to the lab, and now they have like
match.
Yes. It's just uploaded to see if there's a hit.
Right.
And there's no hit. Okay. But they don't know that there's, but grandma also tells them he had a really small penis and he smelled like dirt. Okay. So like he smelled dirty. I think she said she said he smelled like the earth. She said the earth. Okay. So Costa Mesa, there's a detective it's not the same detective who's working on these cases, because whoever was working sex moved on, and it was a new detective now in the sexual assault unit there. But this one detective runs into the one detective who's working up the mom's case. The other one's like an unsolved case. They run into each other.
The two detectives?
The two detectives, yeah. And I believe it was Detective Solinsky. Okay, she was amazing. She runs into the new detective, and I'm spacing on the name, and says, hey, you want to go for coffee? So they're just, BSing, and they go for coffee and they're talking. And one detective says to the other, hey, what are you working on these days? And he's like, oh, I got a rape case of this elderly woman on Mother's Day got raped at this apartment complex in Costa Mesa. And the detective goes, I had an unsolved case from that same apartment complex. I wonder if they're related and we might have a serial rapist, right? So they call the crime lab and they ask the crime lab, compare the DNA
Right.
samples just between the two of them.
Right.
And it comes back a match. So they think, holy shit, we got a serial rapist on our hands now. So, and the similarities. So now they have the DNA profile and they know they're looking for a guy who smells like dirt and has a really small penis. So from there, this is what I think was the most brilliant police work. Okay. Costa Mesa PD goes to the apartment complex and they start thinking, well, maybe it's potentially like a gardener or landscaper who works at the complex.
Yep. Who knows where the single women are and
Exactly. Who knows the apartment layout, where the cameras are, the lighting, all that stuff. So they're like looking into the landscapers, and then they also they go around to the different apartment complex, all the apartments in the complex. This is a pretty big apartment complex on the corner of the freeways over there, the 55 and the 73, like one of those big apartment complexes. And they go around and start asking the neighbors, but they do it specifically at like 5:30 at night. They go around to the people and they say, hey, we just want to, put you on alert that we've had some sexual assaults in the apartment complex. And we're wondering, have you seen anything suspicious or anything? Do you know anything? Oh, and sir, would you mind giving us a DNA sample? Right. So like they're doing it though, like with people there, like the families present, if they're right. Because like, you'd be like, why the fuck not? Like, why aren't you giving them the DNA sample, right?
Right.
So they come upon this apartment complex where this guy lives with his brother. The brother's a criminal, right? He's got a criminal history and the wife's there, right? So there's a guy and his wife and their disabled son. And then they got a criminal, shady brother. So they take the 2 DNA samples from the brothers and then they also, take the DNA from a bunch of people at the apartment complex. Well, they get a hit. They get a match, but it's not the criminal brother. It's the brother with the disabled son. So they're like, huh? Another thing was, but that DNA hit hadn't come back yet. Okay. But it was a match. And then the police are so like, this doesn't seem right. Like he's the one who's employed, has a family. The other one's a shady bird. So they're like, they ask him to run the DNA and make sure. And I think they went and like took a sample, like he discarded something. And so they took another sample and see, did they switch up the DNA samples or whatever? And no, it was still a match to the other brother.
The husband,
Yeah, to the husband. So then in the meantime, before this DNA hit comes back from the crime lab, they tell the apartment management, right? Because now they've alerted everybody in the apartment complex. They got a serial rapist that's going around. They say, if anybody starts packing up and moving,
let us know.
Let us know. So they get a call. The apartment management said, hey, there's this guy who's lived here forever and a long time, and he and his wife and his disabled son, and they're packing up in the middle of the night. Well, found out that this guy was a landscaper. Okay.
At the complex?
No.
Oh, just
but that's what he did for a living. The
smelled like dirt.
That's why he smelled like dirt. So anyway, we go to trial on this. Now, the tricky part about this case, the defense attorney wasn't going after the girls and saying they lied. Obviously, they didn't lie about being raped. Like 80-year-old lady's going to lie. I got raped on Mother's Day, and you know what I mean?
No one makes that story up.
Consensually had sex in the Murphy bed and got a bloody nose and all these injuries. Like, no, right? So, in rape cases, the defense is either it was consent, right? Or it wasn't me, you got the wrong guy. So they were going with you got the wrong guy. But what their argument was, interestingly, this was so fascinating to me, was this is when I learned a lot about DNA. Although I made my friend Jen Contini actually put the DNA on because she was a DNA expert and I had never done it. And I didn't want to screw it up. So I brought her in just to argue, because it wasn't just your standard DNA case. It was very, very complicated because you know how you have on your DNA, you inherit your alleles, right? Which are just the little numbers that show up on any genetic marker. You get one from your mom and one from your dad. So you have 2 numbers there. And that's how you can look and see if people are related, familial, genealogy and all that stuff, right? Well, the DNA profiles that we were looking at on the blood sample, right? Because you get a buccal swab, like saliva, or you draw blood to get someone's DNA. And then we had it from his semen at the crime scenes, right? So we have the DNA from his semen, and then there was the oral buccal swab, right? That we had gotten to get his DNA from his mouth. Well, I think I actually feel like we drew blood as well, but I'm almost confident we got a blood sample. It becomes important because he was triallelic at D18. D18 is one of the genetic markers. He was triallelic on his semen sample only and not in his blood. So when you look at the profile, right? Because if it's his semen and his blood, you're going to see the same exact profile because it's the same. You're saying this is the same DNA, but in the semen sample there was a third allele, which is very rare and needs a really smart expert like Jen Contini to explain it and actually bring out the expert's the one who's testifying, but to ask the questions so that the jury can understand the expert witness who's talking about the DNA and what that means in terms of your genetic profile. Right. So, and ultimately when we were talking about it with the expert, I was like, well, how can you explain that? The difference in the semen versus the blood? And she said, it's actually a sign of like genetic mutation. So it's like inbreeding, basically. When someone's inbred, you could have the third allele where you get one from your mom and your dad and another one. So it's because there's, I don't know. Too much going on, exactly. Your mother and father, brother and sister, exactly. So anyway, so we're litigating this DNA thing, but the defense attorney, his name's John Dolan. Oh my God. And we were in front of Judge Toohey. Shout out to Judge Toohey if you're listening. I love Judge Toohey, but he's very all business. And, courtroom drama, I think arguably made him uncomfortable, Counsel, he was not like I don't know what the word is. He wasn't jovial in trial. Not that you would be jovial in this horrible, serial rapist.
No nonsense.
He's just no nonsense, right? But so I'm in there and I have Jen Contini, helping to question the expert witness and genetic artifact, I think it was called. Anyway, scientific artifact is what that little third allele on D18 meant. So we're in closing arguments, okay? And, oh, wait, I forgot to tell you about when Karen came in to testify. So when I met her, right, I met her at the DA's office before she came in to testify, right? Just we do a little meet and greet. I went to meet her, and she had this huge, sombrero on, right? Like a black velvet sombrero. I thought that was an interesting choice of outfits, right? And when I walk up to her, she looks at me, and she says, you don't look tough enough to be a DA. And I was like, sorry to disappoint you. That's all. This is what you got, babe. Right? Live with it. So
pretty tough. Yeah.
Crazy. So she then, we meet, and she took off the sombrero, and she had gray hair, she had roots, and she goes, I need to get my roots done. That's why I have this hat on. So I was like, oh, okay. So she comes to court, and we always call victims by their first name and last initial, because I don't want to call them Jane Doe. It sounds terrible, like you're nobody, right? And we don't know who you are. So I always just use the first name and last initial. And so I said, good morning, Karen. She's like, hey, Heather. We were best buddies, right? So then I said to her, I was trying to get her to describe about, in order to prove each one of those sexual assault counts, right, which carry 25 to life because you're doing during the course of a residential burglary because you went in there with the intent to commit a felony, the rape or the sodomy. And then also, because they're forcible sex crimes, they have mandatory consecutive sentencing. So if you get 25 to life on one and 25 to life, one for the sodomy and one for the digital penetration, like touching her vagina, those run consecutively. So he would get 50 to life, right? And so, and if he has any priors, that kind of thing. So it bumps up the sentencing exponentially, because if you're 40 and you get 25 to life, in theory, they could release you before you're, 65. Right. You still have life in you. And anyway, I digress. Okay. So I was doing the sentencing. So I wanted to get him for each and every count. And then if you get 50 to life, like you're 40, you got to do 50 years before you come up for parole. Chances are you're not getting out. Like it's a life without parole sentence. Okay. Which he needed for doing this to these people. He's a monster. Okay. So bottom line is, when Karen's on the stand, I'm trying to get her to talk about penetration, however slight, right, is the legal definition of penetration, like the digital penetration with the finger on her vagina. And so I usually use a tissue box to demonstrate that with the victims, because you know how the tissue box has that like clear plastic and there's a slit in it for you to get your tissues out. Right. And so the legal definition of penetration is penetration, however slight, of the labia. That's the legal definition. And so I always liken it to like football and the goalposts and everything. And so if you just cross that goalpost in any way, it's another 25 to life. Okay. Right. So it has a lot more meaning than just, a tissue box. But I'm trying to talk to this witness. And so I am asking her about, because a lot of victims of assault don't want in their mind, like he didn't get it in, meaning he wasn't able to stick his finger all the way up, so it didn't count. And in there, but for me, I'm like, that's 25 to life, baby. Right, that counts. I don't care however slight it was. Right. Let's demonstrate that at least he didn't get it all, maybe he wasn't able to jam it all the way up yet, but he got it in. Okay. So I say to her, okay, I want to talk to you about, the outer lips of your vagina, right? And she goes, they're called the labia, Heather, right? Right? She says this in front of the jury. I'm like, well, I'm thinking I knew what they were called. I didn't think you knew what they were called. But I was like, okay, thank you. So then I said, well, I want to demonstrate. And I go to get this tissue box. She goes, you're not going to pull out a vagina, are you? And I could see the judge like, oh my God, this thing's gone off the rails. Totally. This case has gone off the rails.
Brown. It's always Heather.
It's always me, right? So I said, no. I go, it's just a tissue box. A tissue box? That's all you got is a tissue box? So I finally looked at her. I go, you are killing me, Karen. Just... 100%. Karen, you're killing me. I'm like,
work with me, girl. Work with me.
That's what I said to her. I go, work with me here. Yes, that's all I got is tissue box. Just show us. How did he do it? Oh, like that. I was like, done. That's all I needed. 25 to life. Thank you. Right. And then, right, the defense attorney, when he got up to cross-examine her, it was as if she had watched like a Lifetime original movie and had these lines that she was going to deliver.
No matter what.
No, because the thing was, he wasn't fighting the fact she was raped. He was fighting the DNA. It wasn't him, right? So he wasn't going to go after the 80-year-old lady or the woman who was sodomized in the middle of the night. But he does get up and he says, I don't know why he said this, but he said, you said the man who raped you, wait, hold on. What did he say? Because she was the one that said short motherfucker. He said, no, that was his closing argument. I'm sorry. He said to her, he asked her a question. You said the man who raped you was short, right? She's like, who's on trial here? I feel like I'm being raped all over again, right? And I was like, oh, dear God. So then, right, she goes, and you said the man who raped you had a really small penis, right? And she looks at the defendant and she goes, about half the size of a number 2 lead pencil. And if you could have seen the judge, he was like, choking himself with his necktie. He was like, oh my God, what is happening right now?
Are the jurors dying?
Right? Yeah, I was dying, right? So then the defense attorney gets up and he's arguing this case, right? And he's like very theatrical and screaming and yelling, right? So I was like, game on. This would be fun, right? He gets up and he says, the DA wants you to believe, blah, blah, blah. He goes, she said the man who raped her was, some short motherfucker. And he goes, my client is 5'7", right? And you're 5'9", I don't know. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. She said that the man who raped her was about 5'7". She goes, that's what it was. Sorry, my brain wasn't working properly. She said Karen had said, you said the man who raped you was 5'7", didn't you? Right? Because his client was 5'9". And so that's the issue was, she said 2 inches, right? She said, right? The whole issue was 2 inches, so So this episode's gone off the rails.
Totally.
Okay, and I promise I'm wrapping it up soon, P. And we're running out of time for our episode, but I want to finish the story.
Please.
So she says, Karen had said the man who raped her was about 5'7". So that's what led her to think like, I'm on trial here. So he is then arguing the case, and he says, she said the man who raped her was 5'7". My client is 5'9", right? He's banging on the counsel table, and he goes, and she also said the man who raped her had a really small penis. And then he points at me, he goes, the DA has every right to get a photograph of my client's penis. Where is the photograph of my client's penis? Right? Like, and he's banging on the counsel table and yelling, right? I'm like, oh my God. So I get up in closing argument, I go, do you know how ridiculous that is? I'm like, his semen's found in her fanny. Well, I'm sorry, a DNA profile matching his DNA profile is found in her fanny, but he wants you to find him not guilty because she can't figure out, like, she's laying on her stomach in the middle of the night, and when a man sodomized her. That's like me saying, come here, Mr. Dolan, let me lay down, jump on my back, sodomize me, and let me see if I can guess how tall you are, right? And I'm like, I go, and let's be honest, I'm like, 5'9" is not a tall man, right? And then I look at this little guy in the front row, and I'm like, I'm so sorry, sir. I meant no offense to you. And then all of a sudden I go, oh, and he wants...
As one of the jurors?
Yes.
I love it.
Right? Because I was like, and let's be honest, 5'9" is not a tall man. And I was like, sorry, shorty. No. So, and I could just see, the judge, it was like, oh my God. And then he goes, and he wants to know where's the client, like why I didn't get a photograph of his client's penis. And I go, let me just tell you something. I'm like, he's got every right to get a photograph of his client's penis too. I go, if that guy had a big penis, you'd have seen a picture of it.
Sure.
You'd have seen a picture of it.
Absolutely.
And so anyway, yeah, they convicted him in like 40 minutes.
That's so good. That's so good.
So see, I do have a story you hadn't heard.
That's a great one.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that one.
Bag
That's
up
good
job to the Costa Mesa PD. Jen Contini for helping me with that DNA. She's probably one of the most brilliant people I know. Shout out to you, Jen. Smarty pants.
God love her.
Yeah, God love her. All
That's
right, well,
good
we're
stuff.
out of time. Otherwise,
Okay.
I'd tell you some more stories. So
Yes,
I guess you're going to have to come back.
I will definitely come back.
And we'll have you back after Cabo, so maybe we'll have a couple stories about some crazy things you do in Cabo.
We could.
Maybe you and
could,
Wheezy will hit it off.
We may. Yes, we'll have some good things.
We'll
to
have
talk
fun
about.
nonetheless.
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't mean like romantically. You're
Having fun.
just having fun.
Yes, it's what we do.
All right. Well, I love you.
I love you.
And I
Thanks for having me.
appreciate you more than
Of course.
you
of
could ever
course.
know.
I always enjoy being here, hanging out with you.
All right.
It's a
Any
good time.
single ladies? He doesn't mind a cougar either.
Pimping me out.
You don't mind the old gals, the old chicks?
Yes, old chicks.
They're good too?
Oh yeah, they're good because they get it.
They're smarter.
Wiser.
Yes. We are wiser and
For
older.
sure. Absolutely.
All right, well, that's a wrap. I wish we could talk all day with Salberg, but we gotta keep on getting on. He's got to get back and help that guy with that armed robbery. I can't believe you got me on that. All right, until we meet again, if you can't find the light, be the light like Salberg here. He's the light in my life. He makes me laugh all the time, and that's what it's all about. Have a great one until we see you again next time.
Be the light, shine so bright.